Deep in the Arabian Peninsula, something extraordinary is happening. While the world debates what's possible, Saudi Arabia has quietly begun construction on projects that kind of sound like science fiction. We're talking about cities that float on water, luxury resorts carved into mountains, and agricultural systems that turn sand into fertile farmland. But here's what makes this different from every other ambitious construction project you've heard about. These go far beyond blueprints or concept art. Construction crews are working right now, pouring concrete and laying foundations for structures that challenge everything we thought we knew about engineering. Time magazine just named one of these projects among the greatest places on Earth for 2025. The problem is, most people have never heard of it. Let's start with something that just shouldn't exist. Floating 600 meters off Saudi Arabia's Red Sea coast, there's a resort that literally sits on top of the ocean. This represents a permanent floating structure designed to house 73 luxury villas, far beyond anything attempted with cruise ships or converted oil rigs. And the engineering behind this is just staggering. The entire resort sits on a foundation of 15,000 deep-sea piles driven into the ocean floor. Each pile had to be precisely positioned to account for tidal forces, underwater currents, and the constant movement of the sea. The margin for error was essentially zero. But here's where it gets kind of interesting. The resort works with the ocean ecosystem rather than against it. The underwater sections of the structure have been engineered to encourage coral growth, creating artificial reefs that actually improve marine biodiversity. Construction teams had to solve problems that had never been tackled before. Like, how do you deliver building materials to a construction site in the middle of the ocean? And how do you ensure structural integrity when your foundation is constantly moving? The solutions they developed are now being studied by marine engineers worldwide. From the sea, we move to the mountains. In the Tabuk region, construction crews are literally carving a luxury resort out of solid rock. Desert rock goes beyond building on a mountain. They're carving into one. The project requires removing millions of tons of sandstone while preserving the natural cliff formations that make the location spectacular. Engineers are using controlled explosions and precision cutting techniques typically reserved for mining operations, but with the accuracy needed for luxury hospitality. The scale becomes pretty clear when you realize they're building 48 individual villas, each carved directly into the cliff face. Every room will have floor-to-ceiling windows looking out over the desert, but the walls behind those windows are solid rock that's been there for millions of years. And the logistics alone are just mind-bending. Every piece of furniture, every fixture, every construction tool has got to be transported up winding mountain roads to a construction site that's essentially a vertical cliff face. Workers are using mountaineering equipment alongside your traditional construction tools. But perhaps the most ambitious project is happening in the Northwest. The Line is a city designed as a single straight line, 170 kilometers long and 500 meters high. To put that in perspective, if you placed it in the US, it would stretch from New York City to Philadelphia. The structure will house 9 million residents in a space that's completely enclosed and climate controlled. But here's what most people don't know about the Line. Hidden within this linear city is a marina that can accommodate super yachts, located 200 meters above sea level. Needless to say, the engineering challenge is unprecedented. The structure requires 4.8 million tons of steel, which represents roughly 20% of the world's available steel production. Construction teams are working on multiple sections simultaneously and using techniques that bizarrely combine traditional skyscraper construction with tunnel boring technology. I mean, the foundation work alone involves excavating a trench 170 kilometers long through desert terrain that includes solid rock formations. They're essentially building a canyon and then filling it with a city. Not exactly a weekend project. And while these massive structures capture headlines, Saudi Arabia is also quietly revolutionizing agriculture in ways that could change how we think about food production in arid regions. Scattered across the desert, perfectly circular green patches are appearing that can be seen from space. These represent high-tech agricultural installations that use center-pivot irrigation systems to grow crops in areas where nothing should be able to survive. Each circle represents a sophisticated water management system that delivers precise amounts of moisture to crops while minimizing evaporation. The technology allows farmers to grow wheat, corn, and vegetables in regions that receive less than 100 millimeters of rainfall per year. The scale of this transformation is becoming visible from satellite imagery. Areas that were once pure desert just 5 years ago now show dozens of these green circles, representing millions of tons of food production in regions previously considered unsuitable for agriculture. In the ancient region of Ayua, construction teams are building what will become the world's largest mirrored structure. Moriah is a building that will stretch across an entire mountain face, covered in reflective surfaces that make it nearly invisible against the desert landscape. The structure will house luxury accommodations, but the real innovation is in how it interacts with its environment. The mirrored exterior goes beyond aesthetics. It's designed to reflect heat during the day while capturing and storing solar energy for nighttime operations. The construction progress requires installing millions of individual mirror panels, each precisely angled to create the illusion that the building disappears into the landscape. Workers are essentially turning a mountain into a giant solar collector while maintaining the natural beauty that makes Ayua a UNESCO World Heritage Site. On the Red Sea coast, another impossible project is taking shape. Amala is being designed as a wellness destination that combines luxury hospitality with cutting-edge health technology. But the real innovation isn't how it's being built to work with the natural environment. The resort will feature treatment facilities that use seawater for therapeutic purposes. But the engineering challenge is creating a system that can process ocean water for medical applications while maintaining the pristine marine environment that makes the location so special. Construction teams are building underwater intake systems that can draw seawater without disrupting coral reefs or marine life. The processed water will be used for everything from spa treatments to hydroponic food production within the resort. And perhaps the most culturally significant project is happening in Mecca. Masar represents a complete reimagining of how pilgrims experience the holy city. The development will create a western gateway to Mecca that can accommodate millions of visitors while preserving the spiritual significance of the pilgrimage. The engineering challenges here go beyond just construction. The project has to handle massive crowds during Hajj season while maintaining the reverent atmosphere that pilgrims are expecting. This means creating infrastructure that can scale up and down depending on religious calendar requirements. Construction teams are building transportation systems, accommodation facilities, and crowd management infrastructure that's gotta function flawlessly during the most important religious observances in Islam. The margin for error is essentially zero. And finally, along the Red Sea coast, 12 separate destination developments are being built simultaneously as part of the NEOM project. Magna represents a complete transformation of Saudi Arabia's coastline, creating luxury destinations where there was previously only desert meeting the sea. Each destination is being designed with its own unique character and purpose, but they're all connected by infrastructure that allows seamless movement between locations. The scale requires building new ports, airports, roads, and utilities across hundreds of kilometers of previously undeveloped coastline. And the environmental considerations are staggering. Construction teams have to work around coral reefs, marine protected areas, and migratory patterns of sea life while creating world-class tourism infrastructure. And what makes all of these projects possible is a fundamental shift in how Saudi Arabia views its future. The country is using oil revenues to build an economy that doesn't depend on oil, and they're doing it by tackling engineering challenges that other nations would consider impossible. The construction techniques being developed for these projects are advancing entire fields of engineering. The solutions for building in extreme heat, managing water and arid environments, and creating sustainable tourism in fragile ecosystems are being studied and adopted worldwide right now. But perhaps most importantly, these projects represent a new model for how nations can transform themselves. Instead of gradual change over decades, Saudi Arabia is attempting complete transformation within a single generation. And the world is watching to see if it's actually possible to build the impossible. Based on what's happening right now in the Arabian Peninsula, we might be about to find out. But what do you think? Can human engineering really overcome any natural limitation, or are there some things that will always remain impossible? The answer might be taking shape in the Saudi desert right now.